The film starts inside the bedroom of our protagonist, Leaf. He wakes up and gets ready for school. Before going out, he sees his mother passed out drunk on the couch. Next, we see him at school, lined up to get his hair trimmed. Then he jumps over the school wall to skip class. We see Leaf spray painting a car next. However, he gets into a fight with the other kids that are doing the same. He ends up getting beaten up and knocked out by the street kids around him. When Leaf wakes up, he sees several sentient plastic bags moving past him. One of the bags looks back and tells him to run. He then sees a large armored truck coming from behind. Leaf runs away from the truck until he reaches a pathway too narrow for the truck to enter. The truck then opens its front part, revealing a large vacuum. Most of the plastic bags get sucked in, while 2 bags grab onto Leaf. However, one of them loses grip and gets sucked in. The Leaf hangs onto a steel pipe to avoid getting sucked. The remaining bag hanging onto Leaf, named Baggy, introduces himself, knowing that he might pass away. Fortunately, the truck stops its vacuum and leaves. Baggy looks for the other bags, but none of them survive. He then asks Leaf if he knows anything about Trash City, Mr. G, or the guiding song. Leaf has no idea what any of those mean. Baggy then invites Leaf to follow him since the boy has nowhere else to go. Leaf follows Baggy through an abandoned building. He walks up a set of stairs until he reaches the top of the building. Once at the top, Leaf tells Baggy his name. Then Baggy points to a distant location, the only area with lots of lights. He calls that place Trash City. Leaf and Baggy move from one abandoned building to another until they reach the entrance to Trash City. Leaf sees various moving objects, all of which are sentient. He comes across electric fans, mannequins with headlights, a refrigerator, and more. Suddenly, a group of mannequins surrounds Baggy. Mr. G, the authority figure in the city, appears. One of the mannequins whispers something to him, and then we see Baggy tied up. Mr. G asks Baggy if he has been in the armored truck territory since he smells like engine oil. Baggy denies the allegation, but Mr. G still orders his followers to take Baggy away. Leaf steps up and tries to stick up for Baggy, but Mr. G orders his arrest as well. Suddenly, a spray canister named Artie appears and tells Mr. G that the smell is not engine oil but paint. She then sprays her contents all over the place. Mr. G believes Artie, and he lets Leaf and Baggy go. Baggy tells Leaf that Mr. G is like a god in the area. Artie then asks the boy why he is in the city. Leaf can't answer. Instead, he puts Artie in his pocket and follows Baggy. He comes across more sentient furniture and other random items. When Artie asks him again why he's there, Leaf answers by dancing while uttering, "Because we are trash that nobody wants." A few seconds later, Baggy and Leafy arrive at a small village where all the plastic bags in the city live. Baggy introduces Leaf to the village elder. The elder approaches Leaf and thanks him for saving Baggy's life. All the other plastic bags around them cheer. Baggy then gives the elder a small piece of plastic, stating that it is what is left of their friend, Fu. The plastic bags then start singing the spirit guiding song, which is something they do every time to pay respect to fallen brethren. Baggy explains the tradition to Leaf. He shows him the wall filled with pieces of plastic, all of which represent a comrade who tried to leave the city. Baggy points out a few specific pieces and tells League who they belong to. Leaf asks Baggy why they don't quit trying to get out if many of them keep dying. The bag explains that they don't want to be stuck in the city and become trash that nobody wants. Leaf struggles to understand the statement. Baggy brings Leaf to his sleeping area and asks him to help them escape. Baggy tells the boy that they would cling to him to prevent getting sucked by the trucks. He argues that Leaf wouldn't get sucked by the trucks. Leaf doesn't give them an immediate answer. Instead, he just falls asleep. The next morning, several plastic bags leave their home and begin heading somewhere. Leaf gets intrigued, so he follows them. In the next scene, we see Baggy at a junkyard, throwing rocks at a pile of trash. The other plastic bags follow suit. Then, several vacuum cleaners wake up and start turning on, pulling everything in front of them. Baggy gives instructions to the group, and every plastic bag in the area does its best to resist the pull. Baggy loses balance and almost gets sucked in, if not for Leaf arriving in time to save him. Slowly, more and more plastic bags start to cling to Leaf, holding on for dear life. The plane turbine in the back starts to tilt and eventually tumble. It almost rolls over Leaf. Shortly after that, the vacuums turn off, and Baggy announces the end of their drill. Leaf can't believe that such a dangerous activity was only a drill. Out of the blue, Mr. G arrives and asks what the drill is for. Baggy lies and tells him that they are just playing a game. Mr. G continues the interrogation and asks them to demonstrate their game. Leaf starts dancing while the plastic bags are still attached to him. The bags then inflate, causing Leaf to levitate. As he goes higher, he finds himself flying through Trash City. Leaf and the bags eventually land somewhere outside of Baggy's village. Later that night, Baggy tells Leaf his plan of escape. He tells him that they will start at the docks and then move to a back alley behind the disco. He also tells the boy his plan to set the marketplace on fire as a distraction. Finally, he goes over the final steps of the plan. Baggy tells Leaf that after their escape is successful, he'll be grateful, and they can part ways peacefully. Leaf asks Baggy what happens if he can't help, but Baggy insists that the boy will make their escape a success. Back at the village, Artie greets Baggy and asks where Leaf is. Baggy says the boy is behind him, but Artie doesn't see him. She proceeds to go out and search for Leaf. After walking for a while, Artie sees Leaf talking to Mr. G. When the boy sees Artsy, he quickly ends the conversation and walks away. Leaf tries to shake Artsy off by moving through a disco place. However, she still catches up to him. Artsy calls out to Leaf 3 times before he answers. He tries to play dumb and make small talk, but Artsy immediately asks him why he talked to Mr. G. He tries to play dumb again, but eventually admits that he told Mr. G about Baggy's plan. Artsy asks him why he sold out his friend after he was given food and shelter. He admits that he doesn't want to get out of the city because he has nowhere else to go. Leaf almost chokes Artie's, but she escapes by spraying him with paint on the face. After the confrontation, Artsy rushes back to Baggy's village. However, it starts to rain, and she sees Mr. G and his troops marching to the same location. Artsy tries her best to overtake Mr. G's group, but she keeps getting into accidents. Out of desperation, Artsy turns on her side and launches forward, bouncing from roof to roof. Artsy manages to arrive ahead of Mr. G's group. She tells Baggy that Leaf sold him out and that they should hide quickly. A few seconds later, Mr. G and his group barge inside Baggy's home. The smartphone that Baggy uses for maps manages to hide underground. 2 power plugs that move like snakes make their way underground, where the phone is hiding. The phone tries its best to outrun the plugs, but a 3rd one arrives, and they eventually capture it. Mr. G sees the map on the phone and confirms that what Leaf told him is true. Baggy and his friends get tied up and dragged out of the village. When the other plastic bags see what's happening, they gang up on the mannequins, which allows Baggy to break free. Baggy floats upward while Mr. G orders him to stop. Baggy laughs at Mr. G and questions his authority. Baggy proceeds to deliver a compelling speech. He asks others to join him. He makes the argument that staying in Trash City is just as good as eternal sleep. Baggy approaches individuals one by one, asking them if they are trash. For each individual, he presents them with scenarios filled with hope. He tells them a different type of life they can live if they step outside the city. He asks Leaf the same question before turning around. After his speech, Baggy prepares to leave. Many items follow him, even those that belong to Mr. G's personal guards. Knowing that he can no longer stop the items from leaving the city, Mr. G makes one final statement. He tells everyone that they at least need to know what they are dealing with. Baggy and the others turn around, ready to listen to what Mr. G has to say. In the next scene, we see a large tarpaulin being removed from the side of the building. Every citizen in Trash City now sees what the anatomy of an armored truck looks like. Mr. G describes the 2 deadliest weapons of the truck, which are the vacuum in the front and the crusher inside it. He also tells the crowd that nobody knows what happens after they get sucked in by the truck since none live to tell the tale. Mr. G tells everyone that smaller objects should cling to larger objects. This way, it will be harder for armored trucks to suck them in. While everyone is practicing that, Leaf comes across tiny plastic bags. They cling to him, but Baggy approaches them and forcefully separates them from Leaf. Leaf tries to talk to Baggy, but he cuts him off. Baggy tells him to stay in the city and become trash if that's what he wants. The rest of the citizens group together and prepare for the departure. Some of them purposely bump into Leaf, which makes him angry. Moments later, Leaf finds the smartphone back at Baggy's home. He then goes to the docks and sneaks under the bridge. Then he goes to the alley near the disco and waits for the guards to fall asleep. Lastly, he goes to the marketplace and starts a fire. Artsy spots the fire and alerts everyone. The entire city bands together to put out the fire. While everyone is distracted, Leaf successfully sneaks out of the city through the railway tunnel. In the next scene, we see Leaf intentionally follow an armored truck. He eventually arrives at a factory where all the trucks go. He uses a tunnel to get inside the factory undetected. Leaf then sees a truck release all of its content inside a giant hole. After seeing that, an armored truck suddenly shows up behind him. He tries to hide, but he always keeps getting spotted. Leaf then runs to the middle of the factory, and becomes surrounded by armored trucks. However, the trucks fail to suck him in because they are trying to absorb him from different directions. After some time, the trucks stop, and we see Leaf holding up the smartphone. He is showing the trucks the map, indicating the escape route of the Trash City citizens. The next morning, we see the village elder giving his blessing to Baggy. He says that he's too old to try and escape the city, so he wishes everyone else the best of luck. He asks Baggy if he still has the photo with him. He says yes and reveals a picture of a building called Taipei 101. We then see other items say farewell to the other citizens that chose to stay in the city. Before leaving, Artsy tells Baggy that she couldn't find Leaf anywhere in the city. Baggy laughs in response. After that, Baggy leaves and begins leaving Trash City along with many other citizens. In the next scene, we see Leaf looking at a phone while inside one of the armored trucks. Outside, we see the truck silently moving around the alleyways, preparing to ambush the unsuspecting Baggy and his friends. Baggy and his group get startled and an armored truck suddenly shows up in front of them. They began implementing the strategy that Mr. G told them. The smaller items cling to the bigger things in preparation for the truck's vacuum. When the truck finally uses its vacuum, some items are caught unprepared. The first one that gets sucked in is a partially eaten birthday cake. Despite their efforts to resist, many items still get absorbed by the truck's powerful vacuum. Even the large refrigerator and washing machine eventually get sucked. Only the car containing Baggy and Artsy manages to evade the truck. However, when the car tries to move to a different alley, it finds itself face to face with another truck. The car tries its best to take every corner, but it eventually gets surrounded. Meanwhile, inside one of the trucks, we see Leaf watching everything unfold. The smartphone beside him keeps telling him that it's all his fault. He gets mad at it and throws the phone on the floor. The next scene takes place inside the factory, where all the armored trucks convene. We see Baggy and the rest of the citizens fall from the back of the trucks as they are unloaded into several pits. Most of the items struggle to get their bearings since they are mixed together with tons of debris. They try climbing the walls, but it's too steep and slippery. We then see the trucks group together and communicate through beeps. After that, we see Leaf as he stands up and tries to pry the back of the truck open. The truck containing Leaf opens its back door, but the boy suddenly finds himself falling into one of the pits. Baggy and the others are caught off guard when they see Leaf emerge from the debris. Baggy asks the boy why he's there. Before Leaf can answer, the smartphone appears and tells everyone what Leaf did. Leaf tries to stop the phone from saying more, but it's too late. Everyone around him becomes angry. A boot jumps in front of Leaf and kicks him. After that, the rest of the items take turns beating him up. Leaf shouts at his assailants to go ahead and eliminate him, given that all of them are trash anyway. Baggy retorts stating that none of them are trash. He tries to explain what he means, but Leaf refuses to listen. Batter shows him the picture of Taipei 101. He tells Leaf that once they arrive there, they have a chance to turn into something that's not trash. The boy falls silent. However, that silence quickly ends when the surroundings suddenly start moving. Everyone realizes they are in a large conveyor belt after seeing a lit furnace a few feet before them. Naturally, everyone runs in the opposite direction to avoid getting burnt. In the next scene, we see Artsy at the back of one of the trucks. She hops out to go near the pit and see what's happening. Baggy shouts at her to stop the conveyor belt, but Artsy has no idea what Baggy is talking about. To make matters worse, one of the trucks wakes up and starts chasing Artsy. Meanwhile, back inside the furnace, Leaf struggles alongside the other items to move against the flow of debris. He apologizes to Baggy for what he's done. Baggy replies with a few phrases that he plans to say if they ever succeed in getting to Taipei. However, this time he's saying those words knowing he might pass away. Outside of the furnace, Artsy continues to run away from the truck chasing her. She then sprays the camera on the truck, disorienting it. Doing so makes the truck lose its sense of direction, causing it to fall into one of the pits. Leaf and everyone inside the pit use the fallen truck as a way to climb out. Unfortunately, the fallen truck sends out a distress signal that wakes up all the other trucks within the vicinity. When Baggy and the other items climb out of the pit, multiple trucks are waiting for them. They immediately start activating their vacuums to suck in the ones that escaped. Several plastic bags, including Baggy, cling to Leaf for dear life. The boy tries his best not to get sucked in by the multiple trucks behind him. He manages to grab onto an accordion that brings him to a safe spot behind the fallen truck. Leaf tells the plastic bags and other items with him to hold hands when the wind rises. Then he runs to the side, getting the attention of the armored trucks. When most of the trucks are facing the opposite of Baggy and his group, they feel a strong gust. The plastic bags start to inflate and levitate. Baggy tells everyone to start linking up so they can float higher. Meanwhile, Leaf continues distracting the trucks while watching closely if the bags are gaining altitude. He smiles as he sees a giant collection of plastic flying up into the air. The bags suddenly reach a stopping point when they hit scaffolding. Leaf sees this and runs in a different direction. Doing so changes the direction of the gust and allows the bags to move past the scaffolding. However, this time around, the bags get stopped by a large pipe. Once again, Leaf lures the trucks in another direction in order for the bags to continue floating upwards. Moments later, Leaf enters a large pipe, thinking he will be safe from the trucks. However, the truck continues to follow him and shreds the pipe to pieces. Leaf traverses the pipe system until he finds himself on higher ground. He sees the cluster of plastic bags floating several yards in front of his location. Baggy calls out to Leaf a few times, implying that he and the others are waiting for him to join them. Leaf then dashes and leaps forward, landing on one of the trucks. He then hops from one armored truck to another in order to get to where Baggy is. During one of his jumps, Leaf slips and falls but manages to hang on to the side of one truck. However, another truck approaches from the side and tries to suck him in. Luckily, before he completely loses his grip, the plastic bags swoop in and save him. Leaf successfully reunites with the group of plastic bags. However, the attention of the armored trucks also shifts toward them. As a result, the trucks all direct their focus on trying to suck the group of plastic bags. While the group struggles against the trucks, several pipes leading to the furnace break apart. This exposes several holes in the ground that directly lead to the burning furnace. Many plastic bags fall into fiery pits. At one point, the plastic bags and other items realize that they can use the heat to their advantage. They start orienting their form in a way that they can use the heat to propel themselves upward, similar to a hot air balloon. After a few items figure this out, the rest of the group does the same. We then see several plastic bags, umbrellas, and hats floating upwards away from the burning furnace. The group reforms and continues to fly up. Once they reach the very top of the place, they use an exhaust pipe to propel themselves higher. Eventually, the group flies so high up that they reach the clouds. Hours later, the group finds themselves in front of Taipei 101. The group split themselves into small groups midair so they could start landing. Baggy keeps shouting that he can feel himself changing out of excitement. Finally, when they reach the ground, all the plastic bags let go of each other. The cluster disperses, and everyone cheers as they reach the end of their journey. Baggy wonders why he hasn't transformed yet. He then doubts himself, stating that perhaps Leaf was right about them not becoming anything more than trash. Before getting consumed by negative thoughts, Baggy looks at the picture in his hand. He realizes that it's the tower they are supposed to go to, but a building beside it. With that new information, Baggy and his friends march forward and enter an open gate. They see that several other items are already kept there, which means it's the correct place for them to go. Before heading inside, Baggy fulfills the promise he made to Leaf. He gives the boy a hug and thanks him for saving his life. After that, they bid each other farewell. Out of curiosity, Leaf goes through the gate to see what's inside. Two women see him enter and ask him what he's looking for. He tells them that he's searching for a plastic bag. A man on the other side of the room chuckles. He finds it funny that someone would be looking for a plastic bag inside a recycling yard. The man switches the lights on, and Leaf sees an entire compound filled with recyclable materials. The next morning, we see several scenes that resemble the ones at the start of the film. Leaf wakes up, goes to school for a while, and cuts classes. He goes to the street to vandalize cars and witness the usual street brawl. He then runs away in a single direction while thinking about leading a more meaningful life and becoming someone admirable. He thinks to himself that he wants to be something that is not considered trash. Then he starts walking again. In the next scene, we see an older Leaf spray painting the inside of a store. He thinks about Baggy and wonders what he has become. He asks the bucket if it's Baggy. At the bar, while drinking, he asks the cup if it's Baggy. At the train, he asks the plastic seat if it's Baggy. One night while he's hooking up with a girl, he asks the condom if it's Baggy. Days later, we see Leaf on a bench beside a trash can in the park. While doing so, he talks about his current self and how he has turned his life around. A plastic bag emerges from the trash can and starts talking to Leaf. The bag reveals itself to be Baggy. Artsy springs out of Leaf's pocket and greets her old friend. Baggy then tells Leaf that he knows that he's asking about him. Baggy says that, unlike others, he's still a plastic bag, and the only thing that has changed is his design. Baggy then gets swept away by the wind, and Leaf tries to catch him. The plastic bag then stops moving and tells Leaf that he's going back to the recycling yard in the hopes of transforming into something else, perhaps a wig. The two friends then say their goodbyes again while walking toward the sunset.